Hi, I'm Lou Sitzer here, part of the NCTV crew, and we are in the process of talking with Mrs. Holly Hermanson, who is the superintendent of schools for the county, the entire county of Nevada County. And she recently wrote a piece for the Other Voices in the Union explaining Proposition 30 and 38. And we're going to break it down further so that people can be better informed for the vote coming up November 6th. So here goes an explanation. Holly, thanks for being here.
Sure.
And we are curious, of course, about 30 and 38 because they are both tax measures. They seem to be competing with one another. So if we start with Proposition 30, how would you explain it?
Proposition 30 is the governor's initiative, Governor Brown's initiative, and it is a 7-year initiative that is a combination of personal income taxes and a sales tax, a temporary sales tax for 4 years. The governor's initiative is really to prevent further cuts from schools, and it includes a trigger cut if it doesn't pass that will severely impact our schools locally here in Nevada County and all across California. So the whole idea behind the measure is to prevent cuts during the mid-year.
And from what I understand, it's about $5.4 billion in cuts, of which 5 million or so.
Yeah, I think it's about total $6 billion in cuts in the state of California. About 5.5 or so of that is to K-14, which is K-12 schools and junior colleges. And then there's also a severe cut to state universities and colleges.
And if those cuts were to happen, how would that look locally? What would that mean to our schools?
That is devastating locally. We've faced budget cuts for the last 4 years, and our schools have cut everything they can. And so we've already seen the effects this school year on larger class sizes, fewer electives for our students, less choices in program. And so those mid-year cuts will be devastating. So our schools are planning for them, not knowing what's going to happen with the election next week, but they are definitely nervous about what that's going to mean.
$5 million locally is a lot of money.
$5 million locally, and if you look at it at $450 per student for elementary age students, K-8, and $500 per high school student, when we've already, like I said, had 15% cuts or more over the last 4 years.
I think California, last I looked, it was about 48th in the nation out of 50 states in pupil allocation of funds for education. So we're already close to the bottom. This might even put us there if it went.
This probably would put us there, yeah. For the last 4 years since we stepped into this crisis, we have been hitting down around 48 or 49th in the country in per pupil spending. So we're already very low, and we've been decreasing that.
Now this Proposition 30 would be a constitutional amendment that would only be in place for how many years?
Proposition 30 will be in place for 7 years.
And that would primarily, after 4 years, be an income tax on the highest earners in the country, is that correct?
In the state,
in
correct.
The state, excuse me.
And it's about, I believe it's about 1% of the state income tax payers from the information that I have studied about this. The top 1% would be paying on that income tax.
Now, if we go to Proposition 38, that is not a constitutional amendment, it's an initiative. Both require to pass a majority vote.
Correct.
How would you explain Proposition 38?
Okay, Proposition 38 is known as the Molly Munger Initiative, and it's also intended to raise money for schools through income tax. This money is intended to go directly to school sites, and the decision-making process is a little unclear about how that money would be distributed, but what the initiative contains language about school sites and parents making the decision about distribution of funds. So we're not clear how that would work, but the initiative would be in place for 12 years.
And how would its funds be derived?
You mean how would it increase revenues?
Yeah, how would it get, it's a tax measure.
Right.
How would that tax appear to us as taxpayers?
Well, the tax is on all taxpayers except for the very low income incrementally. So if you're a mid-range taxpayer, you pay a certain amount, up to the highest earners pay more.
So it's a graduated sales tax or income tax?
No sales tax.
No sales tax, graduated income tax to, starting at about $8,000.
Right,
And
for a single,
for
right.
right, and so everyone would pay something.
Mhm.
And then how does it affect trigger cuts that would be in place mid-year?
Right, great question. If Proposition 38, which is, as I mentioned, the Molly Munger Initiative, passes, the trigger cuts would still go into effect according to the current Budget Act. So that won't be changed.
So the school districts and schools statewide would still feel the budget cuts, and then the vehicle that money would come to the schools is a bit unclear as to how money would be used locally.
Correct. The money is intended to provide increased funding to schools, but it's not directly described how that works. And the structures certainly are not in place within our schools to allocate out those funds at this time. So that would have to be done. And but the money is intended to increase funding for schools.
Last question.
Okay.
If both were to receive a majority vote, if both were to pass, what happens?
If both measures pass, the one with the most votes goes into effect. So if the governor's measure gets one more vote than Proposition 38, the governor's initiative goes into effect. They cannot both go into effect. They both contain language that says that. If Proposition 38, if they both pass and Proposition 38 gets at least one more vote than 30, then it goes into effect, and the governor's initiative does not pass.
I think one more distinction I wanted to bring out is I think Proposition 30 also affects funding for public services in addition to schools. So
Correct.
Things like police, fire, those kinds of services would also be supplemented.
Correct, yeah. The Budget Act had the proposition or the measure as a part of it, saying that it would prevent further cuts to those agencies should it pass. Correct, that's a good point. Okay.
Okay, well, thanks. I hope this has helped clarify things. There's always the general election packet sent out to everybody. So, and there'll be further information coming, I'm sure, various ways, but I hope this has been helpful. Holly, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
It's cleared up things in my head.
Okay, thank you. I'm getting a lot of questions, so I hope this helps clarify it for folks. Great, thank you.
Thanks for watching.